Superior pond, superior care. Your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.
All right, let's dive into a topic that's, well, pond skimmers.
Pond skimmers, yeah.
We're going deep with this article from Superior Ponds, a company based in Minnesota. They call this one, "Are Pond Skimmers Worth It? The Key to Stress-Free Water Feature Maintenance."
Stress-free, huh? That's a bold claim.
It is, and they actually share this story about Mark and Sarah, a couple in Minneapolis who, well, they built their own pond, DIY style.
Oh, I love a good DIY project, but ponds can be tricky.
Yeah, and it sounds like they learned the hard way about skimmers. Apparently their dream pond turned into a maintenance nightmare within weeks.
Oh, I've seen that happen. So many beautiful ponds turn into, green lagoons.
Yeah. So whether you're, thinking about building a pond, you've got one that's driving you crazy, or maybe you're just curious about what keeps a water feature healthy, stick with us.
We're going to break it all down.
So first things first, what does a pond skimmer even do? I'm picturing like a miniature version of those pool skimmers.
Not quite. Pond skimmers, they're designed to work continuously.
Continuously.
Yeah, they use surface tension to pull in all that debris, leaves, twigs, even that uneaten fish food before it has a chance to sink.
Ah, so it's like catching it before it becomes a problem.
Exactly. Think of it as your first line of defense in your pond's filtration system.
So like a pre-filter.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what kind of impact does that have on, the overall health of the pond?
Oh, it's huge. The National Association of Landscape Professionals, they found that a good skimmer can reduce your pond maintenance by up to 40%.
40%?
Yeah, 40%.
Wow.
It's not just about time saving either.
No.
It's about protecting your equipment and that whole delicate ecosystem in your pond.
Okay, so we're talking saving time, saving money, and a healthier pond. I'm sold. But let's break down some of the specific benefits. Obviously, a skimmer is going to help keep the pond clean.
Absolutely. No more spending hours, netting out those leaves and twigs. It makes your pond more enjoyable to look at, sure, but it also creates a much healthier environment for your fish and plants.
It's about more than just aesthetics then.
It really is. It's about sustainability, and a skimmer plays a key role in that by protecting your pump.
Yeah, the pump.
Yeah. All those leaves and twigs, if they sink to the bottom, they can cause all sorts of trouble for your pump. Clogs, reduced efficiency, even costly repairs.
Yeah, a new pump's not cheap.
No, it's not. And a skimmer basically acts like a shield for your pump, preventing that debris from ever reaching it.
So, preventative maintenance.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just protecting equipment.
Okay, you've got me curious. What else does it do for the pond itself?
Remember how we were talking about a healthy ecosystem? Well, a skimmer, it's crucial for maintaining that balance. Yeah. Because as debris decomposes at the bottom of the pond, it releases all these excess nutrients into the water.
Excess nutrients. And I bet you're going to tell me something loves those.
You got it. Algae. Those green blooms, they just thrive in nutrient-rich water, and that throws your whole ecosystem out of whack.
Yeah, nobody wants a green pond.
But a skimmer, it helps prevent those nutrient spikes by removing the debris before it breaks down. Gives you a much better chance at controlling algae.
So it's like tackling the problem before it even starts.
Yeah, exactly. And it also means needing fewer chemicals and additives to keep your water balanced.
Right. Less intervention, more natural. I like that. So far, skimmers sound pretty amazing, but I have to ask, are there any downsides?
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect, right?
You're right. No system is foolproof. And even the best skimmer can run into some common problems.
Okay, so what's the number one thing that can go wrong?
Clogging. It's the most common issue, especially during fall. When all those leaves are falling?
Oh, yeah, the dreaded leaf season.
If you don't empty that skimmer basket regularly, all that debris builds up, and it blocks the water flow, makes the skimmer much less effective.
So regular maintenance is key.
It really is. And speaking of those fall leaves, the article, it also recommends putting a net over your pond.
A net?
Yeah, just a simple barrier to catch those leaves before they even reach the skimmer.
Okay, that's a good tip. Anything else? I'm thinking about, Minnesota winters. Can freezing temperatures be a problem?
Ah, you're thinking like a true Minnesotan. Those freeze-thaw cycles, they can be tough on skimmers. They can actually shift or heave out of place, potentially damaging the unit.
Yikes. So how do we prevent that?
Proper installation. making sure you've got a good gravel base.
Gravel base.
Yeah, it allows for proper drainage, so water doesn't pool beneath the skimmer and freeze, which is what often leads to that damage.
So getting that installation right is crucial.
It really is. And speaking of installation, there's another common mistake people make.
Okay, lay it on me.
Choosing the wrong size skimmer.
Ah, makes sense. Too small and it won't be able to keep up with all the debris.
Exactly. You'll end up back where you started, with a pond full of leaves and probably a pretty unhappy ecosystem.
Right, so how do we know what size skimmer we need? Is there some kind of formula?
The article mentions your skimmer should be rated for at least the volume of your pond. So a 2,000-gallon pond needs at least a 2,000-gallon skimmer.
Okay, that makes sense. So matching the skimmer to the pond size.
Right. And get this, the Aquatic Ecosystem Restoration Foundation, they found that using appropriately sized components can actually improve water clarity and reduce maintenance by another 30%.
Wow, that's incredible. So skimmers, when properly installed, can really make a difference. Maybe even save folks like Mark and Sarah a lot of headaches. But I'm curious, aren't there different types of skimmers?
You bet there are, and that's a topic we should definitely explore further.
All right, so we've covered the basics of what a pond skimmer does, the benefits, and some potential pitfalls. But what about those different types? How do we know which one is right for our specific pond?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll dive into right after.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on pond skimmers. We'll be looking at the different types available and how to choose the best fit for your water feature. Don't go anywhere.
So we were talking about all the different types of pond skimmers.
Right, different type.
And for most backyard ponds, especially ones with, koi or goldfish, box skimmers are kind of the gold standard.
Box skimmers. Okay, that's a new one. What are those exactly?
They're usually rectangular units built right into the edge of the pond, usually right at water level. And this built-in design, that's one of the things that makes them so effective.
So literally shaped like a box.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these box skimmers. What makes them so great?
Well, first off, they're fantastic at protecting your pump. Remember all that debris we talked about?
Oh, yeah, the pump killer.
Exactly. Well, a box skimmer actually houses the pump inside it, keeping it safe from all that stuff, helps your pump last longer.
Oh, so it's like a shield.
Yeah, exactly, a shield. And because it's built right into the pond, it's really efficient at grabbing that debris before it even has a chance to sink.
So it's like intercepting it.
Exactly, interception. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, but how easy are they to actually maintain? I'm picturing myself like climbing into the pond to clean it out.
Oh, no. You don't have to do that. Box skimmers are actually designed for easy cleaning. Most of them have these big removable baskets or nets that you can just lift out and empty.
Oh, okay, so no pond diving required.
No diving necessary.
So we've got pump protection, efficient debris collection, easy to clean. Anything else?
Well, they also help with water circulation.
Ah, right. We talked about that. Stagnant water, bad news.
Exactly. Box skimmers, they help direct that water flow, reduce those stagnant areas, and create a healthier environment overall for your fish, for your plants, everything.
So it's like keeping things moving.
Exactly, keeping things moving. And that better circulation, it also helps prevent algae.
Bonus. Okay, box skimmers are sounding pretty good, but what about those other types the article mentioned? The floating ones and the submerged ones. Are there times when those would be better?
Yeah, there are definitely situations where those other types make more sense. Floating skimmers, they float on the surface.
Makes sense.
They're good for smaller ponds or maybe ponds with unusual shapes, places where a box skimmer might not fit so well.
Okay, so more flexible placement.
Right. And they're usually a bit cheaper than box skimmers, but there are a few trade-offs.
Okay, let's talk trade-offs. What are the downsides?
Well, they're not as good at collecting debris. They just kind of drift along with the water currents, so they might miss some things.
So you might still have to do some manual skimming.
Possibly, yeah, especially when you've got a lot of leaves falling.
Yeah.
And they don't offer any pump protection.
Ah, so you'd still be at risk for those clogs.
Exactly. And you have to adjust them more often because they can drift around with the wind, or if the water level changes, you might be constantly moving it around.
Okay, so floating skimmers, pros and cons. What about the submerged ones?
Those are a little more specialized. Submerged skimmers, they're installed underwater. You usually see them in larger ponds, natural style ponds, that don't have a liner or edging.
So not your typical backyard setup.
Right, not typical. And while they're pretty good at removing stuff from under the water, they're not so great at catching those floating leaves and twigs.
Which is usually the bigger problem.
Often, yeah. And they're a little harder to clean because, well, they're underwater.
Makes sense. So for most people with backyard ponds, box skimmers. are the way to go.
Yeah, I'd say so. They're a good all-around choice for most situations.
But are there other things we should consider when choosing a skimmer? Like, does it matter what kind of fish we have or how much sun the pond gets?
Those are great questions. It's important to think about your pond's specific needs. The type of fish you have, that can definitely make a difference. If you have koi or other big fish, you're going to need a bigger skimmer to handle all the waste.
Makes sense. More
Well,
fish, more waste.
right. And the amount of sunlight, that matters too. A sunny pond is going to have more algae growth, so you might need a skimmer with a higher flow rate to keep that water moving and prevent stagnation.
So it's about matching the skimmer to the pond.
Exactly, matching it to the pond. And that's where a pond professional can really help. They can look at your pond, figure out what it needs, and recommend the right skimmer for the job.
Expert advice is always a good idea.
It really is. And the article also talks about how important proper installation is.
Right, the gravel base for winter.
Yeah, the gravel base. But also, placement is key.
Placement.
Yeah, you want to put the skimmer where the water is naturally flowing towards it, usually opposite the waterfall or wherever your main circulation feature is.
So it's catching the debris as it's moving towards it.
Exactly, like a magnet.
Okay, I like that. Using the pond's natural flow. And I think the article mentioned something about wind direction, too.
You've got a good memory. Wind direction can actually make a big difference. If you position the skimmer so the wind is blowing stuff towards it, it's like getting a little help from Mother Nature.
Working with nature, not against it. But what if you already have a pond? Is it too late to add a skimmer?
It's never too late. Adding a skimmer to an existing pond, it can be a total game changer. It can really improve the water clarity and make it so much easier to maintain.
Really? Even if you already have a filter?
Oh yeah. The skimmer acts like that pre-filter, catching stuff before it even reaches the main filter. So less strain on your whole system. And it can actually help your pump and other equipment last longer by preventing clogs and damage.
Okay, so it's not just a luxury. It's a good investment.
It really is.
But what's involved in adding a skimmer to an existing pond? Is it a big construction project?
It's actually not as disruptive as you might think. The first step is to talk to a pond professional. They can look at your pond, figure out what you need, and recommend the right type and size of skimmer.
So, expert advice again.
Always a good idea. And once you've got the right skimmer, they can install it and connect it to your existing filtration system. Might involve some adjustments to your plumbing, but a good installer can do it pretty seamlessly.
Okay, so not a huge upheaval.
Nope, not at all. And the benefits are definitely worth it.
All right, this is making me think about algae again. We talked about how skimmers can help prevent it. But what if you already have an algae problem? Can a skimmer help with that?
That's a good question. Well, a skimmer, it's not going to magically get rid of all the algae you've already got.
Right, not a magic wand.
But it can definitely help. Think about it, algae. It loves those excess nutrients, and it loves stagnant water.
Ah, yeah, we talked about that.
And a skimmer, it tackles both those things. It gets rid of the debris before it can decompose, and it keeps the water moving.
So it's not a quick fix, but it's making the pond less hospitable to algae.
Exactly, yeah. Shifting the balance. And when you use a skimmer along with other algae fighting strategies,
Like what?
like beneficial bacteria or maybe adjusting the nutrient levels in your pond, those things combined, you can really get those algae blooms under control.
Makes sense. So are some skimmers better for dealing with algae than others?
Just like with preventing algae, the size of your skimmer really matters. If it's too small, it can't keep up with all the debris.
Right, and then you've got more nutrients for the algae to feed on.
Exactly. And if you've got a really bad algae problem, you might even want to consider a skimmer with a higher flow rate.
To really get that water moving.
Exactly. Keep those stagnant areas to a minimum.
Okay, so size and flow rate. Anything else?
Placement. Yeah, placement is always important. Remember, you want the skimmer where it can catch the most debris, usually opposite the waterfall, or your main circulation thingy.
Right, like a strategic trap.
That's a good way to put it. And don't forget about maintenance.
Oh, right, keep those baskets clean.
A clogged skimmer basket is like an open invitation for algae. So
Yeah.
empty it often, especially when all those leaves are falling.
Got it. Clean skimmers, happy pond. But thinking beyond the algae, how do skimmers fit into the bigger picture? You know, like water conservation and being good to the environment.
That's a really great question. And it's something that's becoming more and more important as we think about climate change and water scarcity. Healthy ponds, they actually contribute to the overall health of our ecosystems.
Really? I never thought about it like that. Tell me more.
Well, a pond, it's kind of like a miniature wetland. It provides a home for all sorts of creatures, dragonflies, frogs, beneficial bacteria, all sorts of little critters.
Wow, a little ecosystem right in our backyards.
Exactly, a miniature ecosystem. And ponds, they also help clean the water. They filter out pollutants and excess nutrients, stuff that can harm our rivers and lakes.
So they're not just pretty, they're actually doing important work.
They are. They're little water purifiers.
Yeah.
And when we take good care of our ponds using skimmers to keep them clean and healthy, we're actually helping to protect our entire watershed.
That's amazing. So our backyard ponds are connected to the bigger environment.
They really are. It's all connected. And when we think about water conservation, skimmers, they play a role there too. By keeping the water clean and healthy, we don't have to change it as often.
Yeah, when a pond gets all gunked up,
Yeah.
you're more likely to just drain it and refill it, which wastes a ton of water.
Exactly. But with a skimmer working to keep things balanced, we can make that water last longer. Less waste, less water used.
So skimmers are good for our ponds, good for the environment, and good for water conservation. It's like a win-win-win.
I think it really highlights how everything's interconnected. Even something as small as a pond skimmer can make a difference.
That's a really inspiring thought. So, to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a little challenge. Think about those principles we've been talking about. Balance, efficiency, being good to the environment. How can you apply those to other parts of your life? How can you make choices that are good for you and good for the planet?
It's a great challenge. Remember, even the smallest actions, when enough people do them, they can make a big difference.
All right, let's all go out there and be inspired by the humble pond skimmer. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Superior pond, superior care, your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.